The crowd inside Arthur Ashe Stadium had seen Emma Raducanu at her highest high back in 2021, when a fearless teenager shocked the world and lifted the US Open trophy. 4 years later, the same stage told a very different story. She walked off the court after a one-sided defeat to Aryna Sabalenka, her face hiding the sting of a result that was hard to swallow. The scoreline, 6-1, 6-2, didn't just represent a loss, it reflected the brutal gulf between the player who once seemed untouchable and the reality of competing at the very top of women's tennis today. But here's the truth, that painful exit doesn't define her summer, and it doesn't define her comeback. For Raducanu, this US Open wasn't about recapturing that magical fortnight in 2021. It was about proving something deeper, to the tennis world, to her critics, and most importantly, to herself. The summer of 2025, despite ending on a sour note in New York, was her strongest stretch of tennis in years. And hidden beneath the disappointment, there are signs that Emma Raducanu is finally finding her way back. What makes this story emotional is the weight she has carried since her fairytale breakthrough. She was just 18 when she became a Grand Slam champion, a girl who could barely believe the magnitude of what she'd achieved. Fame arrived overnight, expectations piled up, and suddenly every single match she played was under a microscope. Losses weren't just defeats, they were headlines. Injuries weren't just setbacks, they were dissected endlessly. For most players, growing into the game is a process that takes years. For Raducanu, the world demanded it instantly. This summer, though, something changed. Away from the noise, she began to rebuild. The hard courts of Washington, Cincinnati, and New York became the testing ground for a new version of herself. She pushed world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka to the brink in Cincinnati, showing grit and fire that reminded fans why she had once conquered New York. She reached the semi-finals in Washington, a sign that she could string together wins against top opponents again. Those results didn't bring trophies, but they brought belief. And belief, for Raducanu, might be more valuable than silverware right now. Of course, the US Open loss hurt. Walking onto that court against Rybakina, a Grand Slam champion with power and composure, she knew it would be one of her toughest challenges. The match never really allowed her to breathe. Winners flew past her, service games slipped away too quickly, and the mountain became too steep to climb. Still, when she spoke afterward, her words weren't of despair. She called it a strong summer, one that gave her encouragement. She admitted that players target her with extra intensity, as though beating her carries a special weight. And instead of feeling crushed by that, she framed it as a compliment. To her, it meant that her name still matters, that her presence on tour still commands respect. That mindset is why this exit feels different from the struggles of the past 2 years. Raducanu is no longer searching desperately for answers. She has a clearer direction now, thanks in part to the man sitting in her corner, Francisco Roig. The former coach of Rafael Nadal, Roig brings not just tactical wisdom but a calm stability that Emma has long needed. Their partnership is already showing signs of promise. Under his guidance, she has focused on simplifying her game, sharpening her baseline consistency, and rediscovering her aggressive instincts without letting matches spiral away from her. It's telling that legends of the sport are beginning to voice their support again. Martina Navratilova, one of the greatest to ever hold a racket, recently said that playing competitive matches under Roig's watch will be the true test of Raducanu's development. And in that comment lies the hidden truth: Emma Raducanu doesn't just need practice courts and gym sessions. She needs matches, real battles, real pressure, real stakes. This summer gave her that. Every point, every win, every loss is another brick in the foundation she's building for her second chapter. What makes her story so captivating is that she embodies contradiction. She is still just 22, yet she has already lived the full roller coaster of a career that usually takes decades. She knows the sweetness of lifting a slam, and she knows the bitterness of injuries, surgeries, and brutal defeats. Few players have experienced such extremes so young. That duality makes her human, relatable, and inspiring. Fans aren't just following her results anymore, they're following her fight to rediscover herself. The summer of 2025 proved one thing above all: Emma Raducanu is not a one-hit wonder. She's not done, she's not broken, and she's not going away quietly. Every time she steps onto a court now, she does so with scars, but also with strength. Her body has endured surgeries. Her mind has endured the weight of fame. Yet here she is, still swinging, still running, still refusing to let that one glorious fortnight define her entire career. For her critics, the US Open exit will be ammunition. They will point to the scoreline, the lopsided defeat, the gulf between her and the top 5 players. But for those who look deeper, this summer tells a richer story. It shows progress. It shows maturity. It shows a player who is starting to rebuild the foundation that can sustain her for the long run. And if her words after the loss are any indication, she's not just motivated, she's hungry. Hungry to prove that her name belongs not just in the history books of 2021, but in the battles of the present. There's also the emotional bond she carries with fans. When Raducanu steps onto a court, she doesn't just represent a player chasing points and rankings. She represents hope, resilience, and the idea that comebacks are always possible. Her supporters don't just want her to win, they want her to heal, to grow, to find her rhythm again. That connection, forged through the highs and lows of her young career, is rare in sports. It's why even in defeat, her story remains one of the most talked about in tennis. Looking ahead, the road won't get easier. The women's game is deeper than ever. Sabalenka, Swiatek, Gauff, Rybakina, Jabeur, the list of champions and contenders is long. To climb back into their company will take patience and persistence. But Raducanu has time on her side. She is young, she is talented, and now she is learning how to balance expectation with reality. Her summer has already laid the groundwork. The question is not whether she can win another slam tomorrow, but whether she can continue to stack these small steps into something greater. In a way, this summer might be remembered less for results and more for the shift it symbolized. For the first time in years, Raducanu's career feels like it has direction again. The painful exit in New York was just one night. The growth across the summer was months in the making. And if she can carry that forward, the story of her career might yet surprise everyone again. So when people say Emma Raducanu had a disappointing US Open, they're not wrong. The match against Rybakina was tough to watch. But to stop there would be to miss the bigger picture. The bigger picture is a player who is rediscovering her fight, who is learning how to lose well, how to take encouragement from setbacks, and how to use them as fuel. That's not the Emma Raducanu of old, that's a stronger, wiser, and more dangerous version. 4 years ago, she walked off Arthur Ashe Stadium as a champion. This year, she walked off as a fighter still searching. But sometimes, the story isn't about the trophy in your hands, it's about the journey you're building. And right now, Emma Raducanu is building something again. Something real. Something that could make the tennis world believe in her all over. That is why her summer, painful ending and all, might be the start of her most important chapter yet.